In 2026, the concept of lonely has evolved. While some states are lonely due to high rates of social isolation in crowded cities, others are physically empty, vast expanses of geography where the human footprint is non-existent. Over 47% of the United States is technically uninhabited, consisting of census blocks with a population of exactly 0. These states aren't literally empty of people across their entire borders, but they contain the most zero zones in the country. From frozen tundras to sun-scorched deserts, these are the 10 states where you can travel for miles and find absolutely no one. 1. Alaska, the infinite void. Alaska is the undisputed heavyweight champion of emptiness. In 2026, it remains the least densely populated state, with roughly 1.3 people per square mile. However, that statistic is misleading because nearly half the population is clustered in Anchorage. The shocking truth is that the vast majority of Alaska's 570,000 square miles contains 0 permanent residents. These are regions dominated by the Brooks Range and the Arctic tundra, where the metabolic challenge of survival is too high for modern infrastructure. In these zero zones, the only residents are grizzly bears and caribou. It is the only state where you can be hundreds of miles away from the nearest human being, making it the ultimate destination for those seeking total, unfiltered solitude. It is a land of deep silence, where the silence is so heavy it feels like a physical presence. 2. Wyoming, the High Plains Desert. Wyoming is the least populous state in the Union, and in 2026, its vast interior remains a graveyard of ghost towns and empty rangeland. With only about 6 people per square mile, large swaths of the state, particularly in the Great Divide Basin, have a population of 0. Much of this land is federally managed or designated as high desert wilderness, where a lack of water makes permanent habitation nearly impossible. The loneliness of Wyoming is visual. You can stand on a ridge and see the horizon in every direction without a single flickering light from a distant home. It is a state built on the Old West scale, where the landscape was never meant to be tamed by high-density living. For the few who live here, the emptiness isn't a bug, it's the primary feature. 3. Montana, the Big Sky Frontier. Montana, or the Big Sky Country, has seen a surge in set-jetting tourism in 2026, but its vast eastern plains remain hauntingly empty. While cities like Bozeman are booming, the Missouri Breaks and the high prairies are essentially void of people. Montana's geography is a mix of impenetrable mountains and endless grasslands, leading to a population density of just 7.8 people per square mile. Thousands of census blocks in the eastern half of the state report 0 residents, occupied only by massive cattle ranches and windswept coulees. The magic of Montana's loneliness is the scale. It is a place where the sky feels larger because there is nothing on the ground to compete with it. It remains a sanctuary of scale, where human presence feels like a temporary intrusion on an ancient landscape. 4. Nevada, the Great Basin Sink. In 2026, Nevada is a study in extremes. Outside the neon glow of Las Vegas and the tech hub of Reno, the state is a Great Basin void. Nearly 80% of Nevada's land is owned by the federal government, much of it designated as military testing ranges or protected wilderness. This creates massive, forbidden zones, where the population is strictly 0. The central part of the state, along the loneliest road in America, US 50, consists of basin range territory where you can drive for 2 hours without passing another vehicle. The ground here is rugged, dry, and unforgiving, creating a silent geography that has repelled permanent settlement for centuries. It is a place of negative space, where the absence of people creates a stark, beautiful desolation that feels like another planet. 5. North Dakota, the Frozen Prairie. North Dakota's emptiness is driven by its metabolic extremes. In 2026, while the oil patches in the West see seasonal flux, huge portions of the central and eastern prairie have returned to a state of 0 population. As small-scale farming has consolidated into massive corporate operations, the farmhouses that once dotted the landscape have been abandoned, leaving behind ghost blocks where no one lives for miles. With a density of 11 people per square mile, the state offers a flat, oceanic loneliness. In winter, when the whiteout blizzards claim the plains, these unpopulated zones become some of the most dangerous and isolated places on Earth. It is a state where the wind is the only constant resident, howling across a landscape that humans have largely surrendered back to nature. 6. South Dakota, the Badlands barren. South Dakota mirrors its northern neighbor but adds the surreal desolation of the Badlands. In 2026, large sections of the West River country are almost entirely unpopulated. These zero zones are characterized by jagged buttes and eroded clay spires that are as beautiful as they are uninhabitable. The state's density sits at 12 people per square mile, but that number is heavily skewed by the Black Hills and the Sioux Falls metro. In the gap between, you find the loneliest grasslands, where the silence is only broken by the occasional meadowlark. It is a state of quiet resilience, where the land's natural defenses, heat in the summer and brutal cold in the winter, ensure that the population remains concentrated in small, hardy pockets, leaving the rest of the map empty. 7. New Mexico, the high desert shadow. New Mexico is a land of ancient emptiness. In 2026, it maintains a density of only 18 people per square mile, with the majority of the population residing in the Rio Grande corridor. The Gila Wilderness and the vast lava flows of El Malpais are essentially human-free zones. Much of the state's unpopulated land is due to its rugged verticality, mountain ranges that rise abruptly from the desert floor, creating impassable terrain. Furthermore, the presence of massive federal installations like the White Sands Missile Range creates restricted emptiness, where human habitation is legally prohibited. This creates a shadow landscape where the history of the Pueblo people and Spanish explorers feels more present than modern society, simply because there aren't enough people around to drown out the echoes of the past. 8. Idaho, the Frank Church Wilderness. Idaho is home to the Frank Church, River of No Return Wilderness, the largest contiguous wilderness area in the lower 48 states. In 2026, this region remains one of the premier zero-population spots in America. Because the terrain is a labyrinth of deep canyons and jagged peaks, there are no roads and no permanent residents for millions of acres. Idaho's overall density is 25 people per square mile, but the central core of the state is a massive hole on the population map. The loneliness here is vertical and forested. It is a place where the geography itself prevents the expansion of the modern grid. It is the ultimate escape hatch for the 2026 traveler, offering a version of America that looks exactly as it did 300 years ago. 9. Nebraska, the Sandhills Solitude. The Sandhills of Nebraska cover nearly 1/4 of the state, and in 2026, they remain one of the most sparsely populated regions in the temperate world. This is a landscape of grass-stabilized sand dunes that stretch to the horizon, where the population density in many counties is less than 1 person per square mile. The zero zones here are found in the valleys between the dunes, where the only sign of humanity is the occasional barbed wire fence. Nebraska's overall density is 27 people per square mile, but the Sandhills represent a quiet void in the center of the country. It is a grassland sea, where the lack of trees and people creates a sense of exposure and profound peace that is unique to the Great Plains. 10. Maine, the North Woods Empire. Maine is the only eastern state on this list, and its loneliness is found in the Great North Woods. In 2026, this region, roughly the size of Connecticut, has 0 permanent residents. It is a privately owned forest empire used for timber production, with no public roads, no power lines, and no cell service. While Maine's coast is bustling, the interior is a green desert. The loneliness of Maine is damp and dense, filled with lakes, bogs, and millions of acres of spruce and fir. It is the last great wilderness of the East, where the absence of people is maintained by the timber industry and the state's commitment to preserving its unorganized territories. It is a place where you can get lost in the forest and never be found, a true zero zone on the edge of the Atlantic. The value of the void. In 2026, the loneliest places in America have become our most valuable assets. These 10 states remind us that despite our growing digital connectivity and urban density, nearly half of the country remains untouched. These zero population zones are not failures of settlement, they are triumphs of preservation and geographical reality. They provide the metabolic buffer our planet needs, offering a silence that is increasingly rare in the modern world. Whether it is the frozen expanse of Alaska or the timber empire of Maine, these empty spaces serve as a reminder that the true heart of America is found where the people are not.